Avalon Cablevision proudly presents for its 4th consecutive season, Sports Personalities. And now here's your host, Ted Patey.
The sports career of our guest tonight on Sports Personalities started out with a bang, and his career ended up with a bang. His very first game in the St. John's Senior League, he came up with the pitcher's dream, a no-hitter. 8 years later, in his last game of his career, another no-hitter. A product of the Grand Falls minor baseball system, his first organized senior ball came in his first game in the St. John's Senior League, and that was in 1971 with Guards. He was also named St. John's Athlete of the Year in 1975. Please welcome tonight my guest on Sports Personalities, Dennis Byrd. And Dennis, welcome to Sports Personalities.
Thank you, Ted.
Dennis, your early baseball career started back in Grand Falls, in the Grand Falls minor system.
Yeah, I think I was about 10 years old, and we had a good little league set up there, and most of the teams were named after, I think, company or unions in the mill, paper makers and machine workers and so on. We had usually one or two men from the town coaching us, and I played 2 years little league, and then after that I went to Bantam League for another 2 years, and I think I was about 14 or 15 then when I finished Bantam. And we had no junior league to go into. So I think that year we had a midget league that was, I don't know if it was that organized, but it was just getting started for that year anyway. I think they took a couple of years off before that. And that was the last ball I played before I played senior.
Of course, then you went away, Dennis, to study for the Brotherhood, and you did play a little ball, I think, while you were down the States.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had 54 people in our group, and we lived in upstate New York for the first year. And most of those guys were avid baseball players, and a lot of them were quite good. So the caliber was very good, even though it wasn't really an organized league.
And of course, after you come to St. John's, being out of baseball for 10 years and then getting back into the St. John's Senior League with Guards, pitcher's dream, your very first game, organized ball in St. John's, no-hitter.
Yeah, when I came back to St. John's, I was teaching in Placentia for 1 year, and I got the urge to go play ball again. And my brother-in-law, Mac Rideout, my brother-in-law now, I was going out with his sister then, he was playing with the Guards. And he spoke to the coach of Guards, Bill Campbell, and Bill got me a game. So first when I went there, I was sitting on the bench, as you normally do, and I told Bill I was a pitcher, and we went to Air Athletic Grounds, and when we practiced, I did some pitching. So then Bill gave me a chance to play in my first game. You know,
Dennis, when you mentioned Bill Campbell, quite a coincidence, because right this very minute now, Bill Campbell is in the control room producing this show.
Yes, yeah.
And of course, you had quite a chat with him just
I was
before
talking to him before I came in, yeah.
And Dennis, in your first game with Guards, a no-hitter. 8 years later, at the end of your career, you had another no-hitter, only this time it was with Feelings against the Guards.
Against the Guards, yeah. As a matter of fact, it wasn't the last game I played. It was the last regular season game. I pitched one game in the playoffs after that, but we got eliminated by Holy Cross, and that was the end of me and my career. But the last game, as a matter of fact, the last game I pitched in the regular season, the no-hitter, I remember Reg Jones came up as a pinch hitter with 2 out in the bottom of the 9th inning. And Reg hadn't played regularly in years, but he was coaching, and he decided he was going to come in and ruin the no-hitter. And the only thing on my mind was, I'm just going to try to blow the ball by him. And lo and behold, Reg got a piece of one, and I watched the ball drifting out over the first baseman's head in shallow right field. I looked at the right fielder, I knew he wasn't going to get it, and I said it was all over. And out of nowhere, Terry Ryan came from second base and caught it. And that was the end of the game.
Dennis, you started out with Guards. Why did you switch from Guards to Feelings?
Well, the Guards had a pretty solid defense. They had Eric Cooper playing first base. I'm left-handed. When you're a left-handed pitcher and you want to go somewhere else to play, there's not many positions for you. So I played first base most of the time when I wasn't pitching. Eric Cooper was an all-star first baseman, so I wasn't going there. And the Guards were satisfied to use me as a pitcher solely. I wanted to play every day. So I had the opportunity to go to St. Pat's, and they were looking for pitching, and they were also looking for players in the field, hitters. So I went with them.
Of course, as we know, St. Pat's never stayed in the league that long. I think they dropped out the following year.
That year we played with St. Pat's. We had a good team. We didn't win the championship, but St. Pat's dissolved after that season. And then 4 or 5 of us, Charlie Green and Mike Gushu and Kevin Gushu and Bill Cochran and Bob Wilson and I, we all left then and went to Felians.
And of course, with Feelings, you became a very versatile ball player, playing first base, and you also caught for some games.
Yeah, I caught a few games. The last game I caught, Mike Buse was pitching. And Mike Buse was a fireballer. He was in the New York Met farm system for a while. And the first inning, first of all, because I was left-handed, there was no glove to put on my right hand, so I had to wear a first baseman's mitt. And the first inning, Mike Buse fired a fastball that I felt, and it hurt. And around the 5th inning, I think, I came out of the game, and I found out afterwards the finger was broken.
Of course, that was the end of your catching career.
Yeah, that was it.
Dennis, you had the honor of playing on 4 city championships,
yeah.
1 with Garrett's, I think, and 3 with Felians.
Oh, yeah, I must say, we had a good nucleus with the Felians, and our main competition was Gonzaga Vikings then, who later became Shamrocks. And I think they've won the championship now, 8 years, I think. And so I really enjoyed playing with the Felians, but then when we went on the road to Cornerbrook or wherever for the All-Newfoundland, most of the guys on the Shamrocks who are playing now were playing then, and they were on the All-Star team, and I was good buddies with them too.
Of course, Dennis, not only a great pitcher were you, but you were also a great hitter. You won a couple of batting championships, and I think you won 3 batting ships in a row, and I don't think that's been equal yet, at least for a pitcher.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody who's won 3 in a row, but back then when I played with St. Pat's and also with the Felians, we practiced a lot. And some days we'd only have maybe 5 or 6 down to practice down at the Felian grounds, but we practice a lot, and it helps the hitting tremendously.
Of the 4 championships that you won with the City League, was there any one that stick out in your mind today?
You mean with the Felians or in All-Newfoundland?
Or in the St. John's local league?
Oh, yeah, we won 3 in the St. John's in a row with the Felians. Maybe the last one could have been the most satisfying because Gonzaga was ahead in the 7th game by, I forget how many runs now, but they were ahead by a lot. And I think it was the 4th inning, I'm not sure, and the rains came. And the game got washed out. But they had the championship clinched pretty well. And then when we replayed the game, they scored 3 runs in the 1st inning, then we scored 3 in the bottom of the 1st, and then we went on to win the game in the championship.
Now, Dennis, when we talk about you winning batting championships, then they brought in the aluminum bats.
Yep.
Big difference in the aluminum bat as compared to the wooden bat?
Well, I can remember we went to Cornerbrook one year with the St. John's All-Star team, and we had wooden bats and they had aluminum bats. And they were hitting the ball, it seemed like, a lot farther than we were. But when they brought in the aluminum bats, it made a difference in our league, too. Of course, for everybody. We all had aluminum bats then.
Well, some of the hitters with the aluminum bats, their batting average really started to go up, I understand.
Yep. Well, I can remember the second year I won the batting championship, I think I batted .408. And Bob Wilson, who was a teammate of mine, he batted .407. And I think we were the only 2 over 400. But the next year, on the Felians alone, I think we had 4 or 5 guys who batted over 400. And the aluminum bats definitely made a difference.
Getting away from the city, the local city league, Dennis, you also played with the St. John's Capitals, and you were instrumental one year. I think it was in '75 that ended the reign of the Cornerbrook Barons after 7 straight championships.
Oh, yeah. I remember going out there the year before that, and Cornerbrook was intimidating. They were known for having good coaching, good fundamentals, and they were a pretty slick ball club. But the year that we won it, that was the year when we had a lot of good baseball players. Like I say, a lot of the guys still playing with the Shamrocks now played with us then. And we had guys like Roger Butt and Eddie Hurley who were powerful hitters. So we had quite a good team.
Dennis, doing the review of your career, I noticed in 1975 was a good year for you. You swept all the major awards in the city, including the MVP in both the season play and the playoffs. And to top it all off, you were named St. John's Athlete of the Year. And, of course, that's quite an honor in itself, being named the top athlete.
Oh, for sure. As a matter of fact, I think it could have been the last year, if not close to it, when a person won the Athlete of the Year, I think, just on local talent. After that, most of the guys who won Athlete of the Year, or the girls who won it, were good internationally, or nationally, or outside the province anyway. But then it was, I think the last time it was for local accomplishments.
And of course, Dennis, 1978, which was another good year for you, and you say it was probably a better year in one sense than 75. What really happened that year?
Well, it was a year I remember going into the last week of the season, and Terry Ryan and I think Gary Gulliver too, were tied, or very close to being tied, for the batting championship. And I remember then against Holy Cross, I went 0 for 4, and then I was out of the race, I think the second last game. But also I was 8-2 as a pitcher, and the 2 games I lost were both in relief. One game I was leading, and I came out because my arm was tired, and then Rudy Rumsey went in for me. And then Rudy cut his finger in a rundown play at first base, and we had nobody else to win, so I had to go back in. And I lost that one. And another game I lost on as you were telling me earlier, you lost a game on a pass, on a strikeout. Yeah, well, I had the third strike dropped by the catcher, and he threw it to first base, and guys were running all over the place, and lost that one. And also, as a pitcher that year, I pitched a 3-hitter, a 1-hitter, and a no-hitter. And I led the league in doubles. So, you know, that was the most satisfying year, probably.
And I understand you also had the most runs batted in that season, too.
I can't remember that, maybe.
According to the review. I'm getting just a wrap-up, Simon. Just one question before we go, Dennis, because I want to ask you back again next week. We still have a lot to talk about in your sports career. It was such an excellent one. But as a pitcher, and as a great pitcher in the local senior league here and provincial play, who were some of the top batters that you faced, local and provincial?
Local, starting off, like 2 guys I mentioned earlier, Roger Butt and Ed Hurley. Both of those guys were right-handed hitters, and I was a left-handed pitcher coming in on them, and they both pulled the ball hard. They were always tough outs. 2 other guys, too, who had speed and hit the ball well were Joe Watton with Holy Cross. Joe was always a good hitter, and Keith Collins with the Guards was a good hitter. Of course, if you look at the Shamrocks lineup now, a lot of those guys gave me trouble. You know, I had to bear down right from the first guy to the last guy.
Okay, Dennis, I'm getting the wrap-up sign here now. And like I mentioned, we have barely touched on your career. Would you be able to join me again next week for part 2?
Sure, I'd love to.
Okay, that was part 1 of the series with baseball star Dennis Byrd, and Dennis will join me again next week for part 2. So that's it for Sports Personalities this week. See you next week. Good night.
Hungry minds need nourishment too. Support literacy and skills training projects through USC Canada, 56 Spark Street, Ottawa.
Oil and chemical spills can have a major impact on you and your environment. Spills can affect fish and wildlife, damage recreational areas, and contaminate drinking water. To report a spill in Newfoundland and Labrador, call Collect 772-2083 24 hours a day, or check the numbers in the front of your phone book. This message from Environment Canada and your provincial Environment Department.
Avalon Cablevision proudly presents for its 4th consecutive season, Sports Personalities. And now here's your host, Ted Patey.
Well, joining me again this week on Sports Personality for Part 2 series in the career of Dennis Byrd. Dennis, as you know, was one of the great pitchers here in the St. John's local league, being a product of the Grand Falls minor baseball system. And as we were leaving last week, I think, Dennis, we were into a little discussion about the Shamrocks and their 8th straight title, and quite a strong baseball team they got, and almost an all-star team that competes in provincial playoffs.
Well, the last year I played, Ted, was 1978, and the majority of the players on the St. John's All-Star team that year are still playing with the Shamrocks today. And they were good ball players then, and just about all of them now are still under 40 years of age, and they're still good players now. There's a lot of talent there.
There is so, and I remember reading an article, I think was a co-worker of you down at Holy Heart, I think it was Danny Reardon, a member of the Shamrocks. He wrote quite an article on on the career of the Shamrocks baseball team himself.
Yeah, he put together a, I don't know what you call it, a booklet, I guess, of the history of the Shamrocks. And a lot of the things in it were, I guess, tongue-in-cheek, but it was a few laughs, I must say. And he had a little character description of each one of those guys, and they're quite characters, too.
I think Danny still probably does a little pitching today.
Oh, yeah, Danny's still pitching. I think he's having some trouble with his shoulder now, but he pitches periodically, but he's still there with the team.
Okay, Dennis, getting back to your own baseball career now, you played on 3 more provincial baseball championships with the Capitals, and one of the great thrills for you was that 2 of those 3 championships, you pitched the final game to win the championship.
Yeah, in both games, as a matter of fact, I pitched in relief. One series out in Corner Brook, I came in relief, and I can remember distinctly, Gary Gulliver broke up a double play at second base, and I was the one who hit the ball. If he didn't break up the double play, they would have had the double play, and we would have lost. But he broke it up and kept our hopes alive, and then we scored the winning run after that.
And, of course, one of those games you pitched in was back in your own hometown of Grand Falls.
I must say, going back to Grand Falls after being away for 7 or 8 years, it was a good feeling. And it was on the back of my mind. I wanted to do well when I went there. And I remember in the first game I played, the first 2 times up I had base hits. And in a game in the same series, I had a homer and 2 doubles in the same game. So I felt good. And then in the last game, I went in relief as pitcher. And I remember Roger Grimes was the shortstop for Grand Falls. And poor old Roger made an error and allowed us to win.
And Dennis, when we talk about Grand Falls, there's enough players in here from the baseball system, hockey system, that we could almost have a reunion, just naming some besides myself and you. There was Reg Ryan, Bob Matthews is here, Jerry Bishop, Bill Trask, Bill Lewis, Reg Ryan, and like you say, we got enough here to have a reunion of our old baseball days back in Grand Falls.
Well, like I was saying, one year with the Fieldians here in St. John's when we won the championship, I remember one game we had Bruce Andrews from Grand Falls, Ed Flood from Grand Falls, I think Don House, Jerry Bishop was there, Charlie Green was there, and I was there, so we had, I think, 6 guys from Grand Falls. So it was pretty good.
Yeah. Dennis, you had 8 short years in baseball here, and of course years which you enjoyed, immensely, and good years it was. But in 1978, you decided to retire. What influenced you to retire?
Well, a couple of factors, really. One was that the things that I had wanted to do when I first joined the league, like win the championship, and then personal goals like winning the batting title and so on, I had achieved those goals, and I played 8 years, and I put a lot of time into it. Another thing, too, is it takes a lot of practice to play ball well. And we practiced in the evenings 2 and 3 times a week, and then we had our couple of games a week and games on the weekends. So after a while, it's hard to put my finger on it, but the same drive wasn't there that I had in the early years. So I gave it up.
In your 8 years in baseball, like I said, which was a great 8 years, is there any one incident that really sticks out in your mind today?
Any one incident? I don't know. I remember the second year I won the batting. I mentioned that earlier. I batted .408, and Bob Wilson batted .407, I think. But my last time up, in the last game of the year, I hit a ball that dribbled down the first baseline. I ran as fast as I could to first, and the pitcher, who was Neil Barnes, ran over and picked it up, and he tagged me on the chest. But he was back on to the umpire, and the umpire didn't see him tag me. And the umpire called me safe, and I was awarded a base hit, and I won the batting. If the umpire had to see him tag me, Bob Wilson would have won the batting.
So that helped you win the batting.
I can remember that.
Dennis, not only baseball, you also had a pretty good career in hockey, too, again, starting back in the Grand Falls minor hockey system.
Well, when I was growing up in Grand Falls, hockey was really big. We had Joe Byrne coaching there and Wes Traynor. Joe Byrne coached me most of the years I played there, and I found him to be an excellent coach. And Grand Falls produced a lot of good hockey players then. Terry Ryan and Charlie Green and Don House and Tony White, they all came out of that system around the same time I was there. And we had good competitive teams. And I think I was 10 years old when I first played, and then I was 12 years old, I went to Bell Island. And I remember it was a big deal then because I got my picture in the paper with Doug Grant. He was the goalie for Cornerbrook then, and I was a forward with Grand Falls. And then when I was 14 years old, I went to Buckins with the team, and then at 16 years old, we went up and won the midget championship.
Now, when you mentioned that midget championship at Buckins, just before you came tonight, I did an interview with Andy Churchill, and of course, you and Andy met out in the lobby, and it was probably the first time you had seen each other since the midget days, and you played against each other in that midget tournament in Buckins.
Yeah, one thing I remember about that tournament is that St. John's came out with Andy Churchill, and they had guys like Wayne Bradbury, Jimmy Power, John Byrne, and they had a real star-studded lineup. And Joe Byrne and Howie Meeker, I don't know how friendly it was, but they had some kind of a little bet on the go about who was going to win. And I remember we beat St. John's 3-0, and we won the championship. And then Howie Meeker took our team picture and put it on his sportscast. I think with a little prodding from Joe.
Yeah, of course. Out in the lobby tonight was old times again between you and Andy.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know him very well back then, and he was a rugged character, too, and I didn't want to get to know him too well. But he was a good hockey player.
Mm-hmm. Now, Dennis, of course, the big intense rivalry back in Grand Falls then was the high school hockey between St. Mike's and GFA, and you know how intense it was.
Oh, God, the stadium would be blocked. There were two championships. There was the high school championship itself, and then there was the Joan Shield. You're familiar with that?
Yes.
Yeah, and some of those games, they'd be wicked. The fans, like I said, the place would be blocked with fans, and the intensity of the game would be very high. Right.
And of course, you had again, like you mentioned, such good players as Coop Anstey, and there was Charlie Green, and real good hockey. And a lot of the hockey was really rough in the high school league.
Oh yes. I mean, that's where we learned how to check properly, or else you get killed. It was really good. And I remember even just a couple of years before I played high school hockey, GFA had players like Jimmy Daw and Al Dwyer, who became stars in the NAHA. And St. Mike's put out guys like Reg Ryan and Jim Aylward, who coached Mount Pearl there last weekend, I think, in the NAHA.
And Bob Matthews was a good player, too.
Played, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
But Dennis, also now, after high school, and of course, after you moved to St. John's, you played in several leagues in here in the hockey.
Mm-hmm. I played in the Old Mercantile League. I played with Urco then. And I played in the St. John's East League with Portugal Cove. And I played in the Black Horse Recreational League for a few years. And, I played in a number of leagues.
And they were all competitive leagues?
Oh, God, yes. Yes, this Black Horse League now, they had a lot of guys playing with the NAHA in that league. And the Portugal Cove East League, that was really good when I played.
And it still is today.
It still is, yes.
Now, Andy, you also had a career in basketball.
Yeah, my basketball career wasn't a budding career, though. I played in high school, and I played in the couple of leagues around here. I never played in the senior league. But I played with, I think, Guards one year, and I played with St. Pat's another year. Mm-hmm. But I don't think I was quick enough or tall enough for basketball.
Dennis, you took part in this Superstar series in 1976. Just tell us about that.
Yeah, I must say, that was a novelty. I think there were 40 or 50 athletes from all over Newfoundland put in the first Super Sports. And I think the Bats sponsored it, and Dee Murphy, I think, had a lot to do with it. And I must say it was interesting. If I had my time back, I think I would have done a few things differently. But the big star I remember the first 2 years that they had it was Ralph Wheeler. Ralph Wheeler was fast, a good swimmer, a good weightlifter. He trained for it, too. A lot of us went in there and we didn't know what to expect. And like I say, if I had my time back, might be a few things I would have done differently. But it was enjoyable.
So how did you do overall in the...
I think the first year I came 12th, I think, out of the 40 or 50. But a lot of the things that we had to do, like in soccer, we had to kick the ball through a little tiny square at the bottom of the net. If it wasn't really a soccer skill. So if I had known that, I would have practiced a little bit more and maybe get a few more points.
Dennis, do we have anybody in the family today going to follow in his dad's footsteps?
Well, I have two sons and a daughter. My daughter is into dancing, and she loves basketball, and she loves most sports. So I think she's going to be a good athlete. My son, Michael, he's 12 years old. He just started baseball last year. And my son, Daniel, is 9, and he's interested in baseball. My son, Michael, is very interested in basketball. He's going to be a lot better than I am.
What's Dennis Byrd doing in sport today?
Right now, Ted, I'm playing hockey 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. In the summertime, I'm playing tennis and softball. So I'm keeping active. Keep him busy.
Dennis, you find the recreation hockey with no slap shots and no body checking is quite fast.
Oh, God, yes. It's really, really good, really fast. And, matter of fact, 2 of the 3 nights that I'm playing, we have slap shots, but no body checking. And we have a lot of good hockey players. So it keeps me in good shape.
And you find in recreation hockey where there's no body contact, you get a lot of players going all out down the ice like the Eddie Shacks. Head down, they know they're not going to get hit.
I know, yeah. And, that's it. When you're 39, 40 years old, you don't want to get racked up.
That's true. Dennis, after such a career in sports, any regrets?
No, none. If I had to do it all again, I think I'd play all the sports that I played.
Are you taking in any senior ball games today?
No, to be honest with you now, I haven't seen a game in a long while. My philosophy is if I'm going to go down, I'll play rather than watch. But I've seen maybe 2 or 3 games over the last 5 or 6 years.
Who were some of the good ball players that you, I won't say idolized, but impressed you during your career?
Well, I thought about this before I came on the show. If you asked me who was the best ball player I ever played against or played with, I think I could honestly say that the best 2 ball players that I've seen in Newfoundland would be Terry Ryan and Brian Colburn. Brian Colburn, by the way, played with us 1 year with the Felians. He and Tom Humber came in, and they certainly didn't hurt. But those 2 guys seem to have the best talent, and Brian Colburn especially, his knowledge of the game. But those are the best 2 I think I've played with or against.
And talking about this reunion among all the players, we forgot to mention Terry Ryan. You probably mentioned, but Terry also now coaching the Mount Pearl Blaze in the NAHA.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Dennis, I want to thank you for joining me for the past 2 weeks. It's been a great honor having you on Sports Personalities, and just a great privilege talking to you and learning so much about your sports career.
Okay, you're welcome, Ted.
Thank you, Dennis.
Thank you.
My guest for the past 2 weeks on Sports Personalities, over here, my guest for the past 2 weeks on Sports Personalities has been Dennis Byrd, great pitcher in the St. John's Local Baseball League, a product of the Grand Falls League. And that's it for Sports Personalities this week. See you next week. Good night.
Okay.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you.
War-Amps key tags. Carl Hilsinger, former football great who lost 2 legs in a tragic car accident, leads a group of young amputees in a ski clinic run by the War-Amps through its child amputee program. Through your donations, child amputees in Atlantic Canada receive special artificial limbs, education, legal services, counseling, research, and for all children, the Play Safe Safety Program. Your key tag donations make it all possible.
Share a little bit of yourself without even knowing. When you share a little bit of yourself, you'll find good feelings growing.
Share something no one else can. Yourself. From the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons.